You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast. Two friends since choosing sides between Cocoa Pebbles and Fruity Pebbles, now guides on your nostalgic tour of Disney history, one magical film at a time. I'm JB Waggoner.
And I'm Eddie Ferguson. And on today's episode, we shiver from the effects of legalism in our own childhoods as we review Pollyanna.
So fasten that safety restraint and pull up on the yellow strap, because it's time to open the vault.
Cue that Disney sound effect.
Eddie, you get me every time when I don't read through everything. And then I get to experience it live. I know you do that for me in the ending too, but oh man, Pollyanna. This was the top of my watch list even before I knew we were going to be doing this review. So, Eddie, I feel just so ready to take this on completely. I don't know about you. Was this a regular watch in your household?
No, I had never touched this movie. The only reason I put it on the list is because as I was looking through, it came up often as one of the Disney classics.
Okay.
This is, and I'm going, oh, okay. I got to watch this then. I got to see why. And I'm still left wondering a little bit, I must confess, as to why that may be. My wife, on the other hand, had a very different experience. She remembers this movie well and fondly as a child.
This seemed like a Sarah flick. If I've ever seen one.
Let's be careful. Let's not define that too far. You may get me into trouble with that, but yes.
Funny enough, I had seen this before. This was a VHS that my grandparents had at their house, right next to Anne of Green Gables and all the other ones similarly like this.
It kind of fits in that thread, doesn't it? It just seems...
Definitely. So I had seen it, the
Heidi.
Oh, yes. Heidi as well. I'm pretty sure we had that taped off TV for sure.
And somehow I feel like you would then make a natural migration over to Little House on the Prairie.
Well, yeah, all the seasons of that.
And then you wake up one day and you're watching Sarah Plain and Tall. And you're going, hold on. I started with Pollyanna. How did this happen?
Didn't we read that in 5th grade? Yeah.
I love Sarah Plain and Tall. Glenn Close.
Also, what I remember. Oh, yeah.
Long time listeners know my love for Glenn Close.
Michaela out there, you're saying, I remember that.
I got a very strongly worded text message from your wife once, based off of my opinions from Glenn Close. But I don't want to go there again.
We won't go there again. But anyways,
I want to stay on a good side.
Eddie, it looks like you did more research on this than I did, and you might have some production stories for us or something of the nature to explain.
When JB says research, what he means is Eddie took 30 minutes to scour the interwebs.
Those 30 more minutes than I took.
Copy and paste. I was waiting for something to process, and I'm like, I'll do some searching on all of this. Well, we'll start with the director. The director's name is David Swift, and I had a lovely little rabbit trail of research. You know how much I love my just random research over things that really have nothing. I read this line where it said David Swift started his career with Disney as an in-betweener in the animation studio. Pause. And that jumped out of my attention because I've never heard the term an in-betweener.
Okay.
JB, do you know what an in-betweener is?
I'm guessing they ran physically in between the two studio areas, between the painting people and the drawing people.
That was my guess. Like a gopher, like a helper, a runner, every production's got
my second guess. My second guess is
Let me hear your second guess.
My second guess is they created the frames between the different action elements. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, you did not know that. You just looked that up or something.
I have read that biography on Disney like 5 times, only 2 of them inside of Barnes & Noble before buying the book. So I think it was in there. I'm pretty sure it was in there. So explain it in better detail.
All I have is the giant biography of Mickey Mouse that I am still working my way through because it is
hefty.
562 pages. Yes, I didn't know that this was like a job. An in-betweener, as JB just so accurately described, is the person who does the in-between frames, especially like after all the animation is done and the motion doesn't seem like as seamless. They're going to be the person that does these in-between frames to try and help smooth out the action, to make it come across more seamless. So this is how he got his start at the studio as an in-betweener. There you go, folks. We're going to come in handy one day for you on Jeopardy when this comes up. But yes, so he starts as an in-betweener. Then he goes on to become a television director for several other companies. But Walt sees his potential as possibly being a feature film director. And he one day just hands him the book for Pollyanna and says, I think this could be a really great movie. Give me a treatment. And Swift comes back, gives the treatment, and Walt automatically greenlights it just based off of the treatment that he gives him. And Walt goes all out on this movie. This kind of becomes one of his new like pet projects. And in particular, he really wanted this to be loaded with an all-star cast. And so he goes after some people who are maybe not well known to us, but everybody has some strong credentials dating back further into even kind of the silent film era, or, you know, the early days of talking pictures, that he gets some pretty strong actors to fill out all these roles.
One of which being Hayley Mills, who becomes famous, at least more famous for us at least, with the Parent Trap movies.
Yes, so this becomes the first of 6 films that she will make for Walt Disney Pictures. Like, she becomes one of the go-to actors for them. This also stars Kevin Corcoran, that we have already seen in Old Yeller, The Shaggy Dog. We're going to see him in a couple other films come out.
Can't quit him.
Can't quit him. These are the go-to child actors for Walt Disney during this era. Which both Hayley Mills and he become a Disney legends. They are Disney legends. Kevin Corcoran. Don't know.
Can you explain? Can you explain what a Disney legend is? Like, what do they get? What do you get if you become a Disney legend? And what qualifies you to be a Disney legend? Similar to like what qualifies you to be a Disney princess, but assuming this is different.
Well, Disney princesses, are you going to make Disney a whole bunch of money? Disney legends is you have made Disney a whole bunch of money. That's the difference. That's how the two work. Disney legends are people who have contributed to Disney in some big capacity. And every D23 Expo, they usually announce anywhere from like 6 to 10 people. And they have like this big Disney legend ceremony. You get this beautiful statue, but you get your handprints in the Disney Legends courtyard on the Burbank lot, right in front of the Seven Dwarfs building, the famous Seven Dwarfs building. Right there, there's a courtyard, and everybody's got their handprints in bronze. So, and it's everywhere from like Imagineers to directors to actors. Yeah, all different types of people have become Disney legends. So
there you go.
This D23 Expo, be on the lookout for some new Disney legends.
Well, Eddie, we've spent 10 minutes talking about this film, loosely about this film, and we haven't even talked about the first frame of this movie, which is just some kid's bare butt.
Yes.
Swinging into the water. That's like the first image we get of this. I don't know what existential crisis we need to come at to explain why they chose this to be the very first thing and how they got it green light through all the much more conservative ratings guilds, stuff like that. I'm just like, what is going on? Why is this here?
You wouldn't expect a Disney movie to open with nudity.
Rear male nudity. Just
yes.
Like, why are we? What is going on here? Oh goodness. I was just like, okay. I don't remember this from my childhood watching this. I do remember the stair sequence at the very end, which we will get to. But anyways, Eddie, what was your favorite random towns member from this movie? What was like, because you meet a ton, and you realize that at the very end, where you're like, oh, Mrs. Snow, the cranky old lady, get the cranky old dad, like man with the prisms. You get all the different house servants. You get obviously her Aunt Polly. Like you meet a lot of different people in this thing, all with their own very different quirks or secrets in here.
Well, I think the obvious answer is I felt a special connection to the minister.
The minister. I forgot about it.
Yeah. And I would, there's I was on the edge of my seat speaking to him in quite strong words throughout most of the
We're trying to be like, no, don't lead with that. Out of context. Get a reference. Get a commentary.
But I also enjoyed the housemaids. I think the gossipy housemaids, especially, they had me at like sitting around Sunday afternoon, just like in complete misery, talking about how Sunday is the worst day of the week.
Oh yeah. Did you feel personally attacked by that?
Or seen. No.
That's funny. I have a special place in my heart for Mrs. Snow, the lady who's always dying, making everybody's lives miserable, and just Pollyanna's way of just like slithering her way right into her heart. Which I'm not gonna lie, by the time she gets to the bazaar at the end that they set up, like she kind of has a little bit of that effect on you, like where you're just like, this girl is so freaking annoying. But man, you know what? You probably can find something good in it. You probably should try to find something good in every situation, even if the situation's really bad. Like, what else can you do but just wallow in the misery of the moment? And I'm just like, man, I don't want to, but so Mrs. Snow, I just felt like I was Mrs. Snow, and so experiencing it was like her being literally in my living room at that time.
A hypochondriac?
No, it's just probably just a curmudgeon. Maybe I should be more like the Prism guy. I'm probably more like the Prism guy.
Lying about having children locked up in your basement.
Exactly.
Or is he?
Or is he? Or is this all just a ruse to get them all? But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, there's something quite infectious throughout this whole movie of a girl who has lost everything. Like, she lost both her parents, and she's still choosing to be very positive, look for the good. There's, of course, she's a young girl, so it's annoying. This was the thing that I said to Sarah was, well, we're going to get to here in a second with looking at Inside Out too, but it's all connected where I'm going, there's something about like teenage girls or tween age girls that I think we can all agree are some of the most annoying people on the planet, but we continue to make movies about them, from like Turning Red to Pollyanna to Inside Out 2. It's like, why do we keep looking at this?
And The Last Dragon.
Yeah, like scenes. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves when we all know that's
Eddie,
not?
It's because
that's a very annoying phase.
It's because we all want to be able to reclaim that innocence and that joy and that ability to look past life's obstacles and to reclaim that. I don't know. That might be it. So this book that this is based off of is literally where the term Pollyanna comes from. Like as we know it today, which according to the dictionary just means blindly or foolishly optimistic person. It comes from this book, which then obviously became the movie. Didn't realize that it didn't predate that. So 1913, when the novel came out, that's when we started calling someone Pollyanna-ish. Or
don't be a Pollyanna.
Don't be a Pollyanna. But it's just, I don't know what it is. It's just, there's something about optimism that just can't be, like when it's just can't
be brought down.
Yeah, when it's there, and I know that you hate that, the human spirit, the trial of the human spirit. Like I know you hate those movies, as well as all Chicago and space movies. Don't even throw those at Eddie. But yeah, I don't know. There's something there. One of my favorite some of my favorite lines in this film have to do with her comments about being rich. I'm not supposed to be glad that we are so very rich. Like walks out when she's asking, "Oh, who lives in there?" And then the maid says, "No one lives in there. They're just there. That's what being wealthy is. It's just there." And then if we had the money you had, we'd have steak and ice cream 3 times a week. Like her ability to just not be deterred and just want to enjoy the wealth more than the people who have the wealth is just so good. It's exactly what we all need, Eddie, if I can say it.
Well, it's the ability to speak about things that are taboo without realizing that they're taboo.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids say it too, when they like point out characteristics about people, they'll be like, "Wow, he's got a really big belly." And you're like,
couldn't tell if you were saying that as Lewis or as Eileen.
I think all of them have said something somewhat.
And then when they say it to you, you're like,
yes. Or, "Daddy, I love punching your stomach. It's so squishy." You're like,
Thanks for making that.
That's the best thing you've said on Father's Day to me all day. Thanks. Oh my. I think you hit it really well of like, who's your favorite townsperson? I think this movie is sure, Pollyanna is the main character, but in many ways, I feel like the town is the main character. And like, that's the whole point. That's the whole arc of the movie is, can the town like create its own identity apart from this rich family?
Yep.
Can they step out and do what they want to do, not just what the rich old lady says? And is this rich old lady going to actually be a part of the town, or does she just want to rule the town? And so you see like, I mean, there's a Pollyanna, but there's also, now I'm blanking on it, the name of the town. They call
Harrington.
it like what? Harrington, yes. Gladtown at the very end, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Gladtown.
Let's be our own. And that's fun.
Yeah. This is the movie that it's easy to hate this movie and also be like, secretly, you know what? It's not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Isn't that interesting? I feel like we're saying that more and more with some of these classic films.
I want to be cynical about it, but then again, I'm also tired of being cynical at times, and maybe I should just enjoy.
Well, they're simpler. They're simpler stories. They're simpler movies. And I think we live, just to get a little philosophical or shrinky, we're living in like non-simplistic times. Like everything is just way more complicated than it needs to. And movies included, like stories included. Like we don't make just a great example. I went and saw If, the John Krasinski movie. And I'm like, not blown away by that movie, but like, hey, this was just like a simple, straightforward movie that was bright, fun, colorful, creative. We need more movies like this. You know, like we just need simple story. Just tell me a very simple, straightforward story. And I feel like that's Pollyanna. Like, here's a really sweet, simple story about a young girl in a town and how, you know, no matter what life throws at you, you can choose the perspective. What the difference between an adventure and an ordeal is perspective. I don't know if you've ever heard that quote.
Ooh,
I don't know who it's attributed to.
That sounds like it should be on a walking stick or a bumper sticker.
A walking stick?
Yeah.
Did JB just mention an interest in taking a hike?
I didn't say that was my walking stick. I'm sure that would be your walking stick, but... Can we talk about the ending of this movie for a second?
Take us there.
Her becoming cripple. Like just the ending of this film is her falling off the roof to try to sneak back into the home, and one, you think maybe she's dead for like 2 minutes, like because they don't address it.
They don't tell you.
And then they finally do. And then she is acting normally, just like anyone else would when they find out that they can't walk again and not wanting to be happy about anything. But then the town brings her back as they're just like overwhelming her with gifts and puppies. I saw several kids carrying puppies. It got real crazy at the end of this. Like, just going to say, we went a little far on some of it. But maybe I still liked it. I don't know. I don't know what I think about it, but
I like it because here's this girl who loses her parents. I mean, she's an orphan and she still has positivity. She still chooses to be blindly optimistic. She comes to a town. She turns the town around. Like she finally, like the optimism rubs off on them. But then she comes to a moment where
she needs the town.
She needs the town, and the town does for her what she did for them. And it's like, yes, there we go. There's a story, folks.
It's just a lot. She lost everything, and then she lost her legs. Like, how cruel is this author, Eleanor H. Porter? Like, that's cruel to then make this girl lose her legs as well.
And then to make her go to Baltimore to get better. Baltimore? Seriously? Who wants to go to Baltimore? Ugh.
Just it felt cruel.
Insult on injury.
Too much. A bridge too far is what I'd say. But all for the sake of the story, and I guess they're optimistic.
Did you just make a bridge reference to Baltimore?
Yeah. Too soon? Too soon, anybody?
Too soon. Yes, I would say too soon.
Oh, goodness. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. What a movie. What a message, a moral message for all of us right now. Especially if I know it's going to be ironic. Michaela is the one that keeps telling me every time she sees me, love your podcast. I agree with Eddie more than you because he's more positive than you are. So it's funny that this is the movie where I'm like, maybe
am I the Pollyanna?
Maybe I need more Pollyanna in my life. I don't know. But maybe that ending, the opening and ending, it started crazy and it ended crazy. Just going to say that.
Yeah. Well, this movie took a little bit to gain some steam. when the movie failed to bring in half of the $6 million that it was expected. So they expected $6 million. They only got about 3.5. It was okay because they only spent about 2.5 on it. So it made money. They didn't lose money, but it didn't go nearly as much. Disney himself said, I think the picture would have done better with a different title. I thought this was an interesting quote. I think the picture would have done better with a different title. Girls and women went to it, but men tended to stay away because it sounded sweet and sticky, end quote. I'm not sure what sweet and sticky has to do with the movie. But I found this quote very interesting because this is the exact same conversation that happened a long time later with The Princess and the Frog.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And this is why we got a long string of movies called Tangled, Frozen, Moana, where you just boop, 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 boom.
It's not as... I'm not meaning this pejoratively. Gendered, is that the right use of that word? Where it leans heavily, at least towards female. Like then you've got Cars, which apparently was fine to make and it made the money. But if you make something more for girls, then that doesn't generate as much as they were hoping. So it's interesting. I don't know if this was the first one that they realized that with, but that's been a staple of Disney for most of their time. Then after that is trying to pick names that would try to bring in both crowds.
Yeah. I was trying to find if there's any impact in the parks, if there's any representation. I really couldn't find anything specifically. The only thing that a lot of people seem to talk about and reference this is we all know Walt Disney was fascinated by the turn of the century, the era in which he grew up in. Main Street USA, you come into Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom in that era. And that's part of the reason why he loved this book and this story so much, because of its setting and because of the era that it takes place in. And you see that clearly from the beginning of the movie. But otherwise, I don't know of any overt references.
Probably because they didn't make enough money.
That's the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line. But, well, you want to give your Pollyanna review of Pollyanna?
My Pollyanna review of Pollyanna. I think I'm just going to... So one of my go-to ones is, how soon am I going to turn this thing on?
Sure.
I am not sad that I watched it. I didn't skip through a ton of it. Maybe just a little bit at the end. But
just the nudity at the beginning.
The nudity at the beginning. And some of the bizarre, I just got tired of it. I'm probably going to still, even though I've brought up the whole, maybe this is what we needed all along, I'm still going to put it back in the vault. So just to shock and dismay people, just to kind of bring this full circle back to what you expect from me. Keep on brand for my Disney sadness. But I'm going to go back in the vault. I'm good putting this. I'm glad it came out, and I'm glad to put it back in.
Don't want to ever get it out again.
No, it's never going to come back out.
I'm just going to agree with you. I'm just going to, There's a part of me that wants to, give it a 2. It was interesting, but I think you're right. I think it is one of those where you're like, hey, glad it came out just for its brief little moment in the sun.
Bless your heart. That's how I feel about this movie.
Don't think I will ever go out of my way to try and see this again.
No. Hard pass.
And if anybody were to be like, should I? Like, I feel like interesting. There should be a handful of people that I would go, you should check this out. Yeah, it's interesting enough. You should. Like, I don't know if I would say that about this movie to anybody.
No.
Like, glad I watched it, but back in the vault. We're good. We're done.
Interesting might be how I feel about The Acolyte right now, but we're not going to touch that for right now.
No, you didn't. We just said
We're not opening that can of worms. Maybe another day. But anyways, I had to. Eddie.
You had to do something.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, now that we've filled you up on nostalgia, we're going to cover a little bit of Disney news. Primarily, let's just clear the deck, clear our palates.
Speaking of nostalgia,
we're going to be, that's great segue, Eddie. Inside Out 2 just dropped, and we actually moved the recording of this podcast so that Eddie and his family could actually go see it. Eddie, do you want to say what happened, or do you want to save that for your story time later? You can go ahead and say it now if you want to.
I've got the story for story time later, so help me remember what occurred in the theater. So we go. Friday was Eileen's birthday. Happy birthday, Eileen. And we had this great idea. It's her birthday. Let's go see Inside Out 2 in the theater. We had gone and seen Wish, and that went really well. So we're like, okay, this will go great. But we get there and we forget it's Father's Day weekend. Like, this place is packed. And there's only one English showing. And I'm in line, and like, it is just packed out the wazoo.
You didn't buy your tickets online early?
So here's the thing. I can't, because you have to have a Costa Rican, like a national Costa Rican card.
Okay.
And all my cards are US cards. So I can see if the theater's full or whatever, but I can't actually
And it might have filled up like literally as you're standing in line.
So I get in line. I'm like, this is a huge line. I wonder if this is full. I pull up on the app and it's like, yeah, like there's maybe 6 seats if we all separate and sit all over the place. Yeah. And I'm not doing that with little kids. And then it begins to look at it and I go, but because of my card, I get 2 for 1 on Monday through Friday.
Oh.
So that's why we went on Monday. We waited until Monday because I'm like, I'm not paying twice as much. Like I'm going to get the deal here. So yes, we ended up going, but there was a huge ordeal because the kids were so excited.
Yep.
And we all know how a 6, 4, and 2-year-old react to disappointment,
to change,
and unmet expectations and change. So yes, it was quite the big ordeal, but we spent all weekend rewatching. We had already watched Inside Out once. We watched it another 2 times, and we printed off every Inside Out coloring page we could possibly come across. So by the time we went to see the movie on Monday, Lewis had to pack his backpack full of all of his drawings that he'd spent all weekend doing.
To take it with him?
Because he wanted them with him in the theater. Of course. And halfway through the film, he's pulling out his drawings going, Daddy, this is what I drew.
Do you take Asa too?
Oh yeah, we took everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's brave.
Yeah. Well, we have a helper right now. So it was like 3-to-1, one-on-one ratio.
One-on-one, okay.
You know? So it was like, it was one-on-one. It was like adult per kid.
Did you actually make it through the movie without having to leave the theater?
No, of course not. So we, the 2 littles made it until about the last 20, 30 minutes. And then they were pretty restless.
They were done. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you all?
We went, that was also part of Father's Day weekend. Went and saw the 10:30 a.m. showing and it was actually a fairly full theater, but we got there early. I've been mostly going, just me and the 2 older ones. And so when we go, we have to get everything ready, popcorn, like anything, take care of like bathroom breaks, everything before we go into the theater. And I try to time it where we're actually getting there right as it's starting, because then otherwise your popcorn, you're just going to eat it all before the movie starts. But because you got no help, you can't just like get seats and then come back. So it was really nice. We actually got my wife to come out of movie theater retirement.
Yes.
She had not been in a movie theater since 2019. Star Wars, the last Star Wars film that came out in 2019.
We don't need to say its title.
No, we don't. Just short of it, we had a very weird experience. There was dude being super weird, sat right next to us. She ended up leaving, going home. Also, we had, and I stayed for this movie, but even it still took me like 15, 20 minutes to get back to normal on it. But she has, so I've mostly been taking the kids by myself. So this was awesome getting to see the movie that I was super anticipating. That it was enjoyable. It was an enjoyable movie. It didn't have a bunch of things that I was worried or it wasn't a letdown for me personally. I don't know. We'll get to your review, but then also being there, seeing it with my wife, and then also having help with the kids and being able to get everybody in their seats, sit down, and then I could go get the snacks and bring them back and get it all ready. It was a grand experience that I sent you a photo of. So,
to which Lewis today was like, we need to call Uncle JB because I want to know what everybody thought of the movie.
Oh yeah, my son was like, "Are you going to podcast about this?" And this is the first time I've been able to say, yes, we are actually podcasting about this movie. So he's very excited that we were going to actually talk about it. We should probably actually talk about the movie. It'd probably be a good idea.
So where do we begin? Let me just say this. I think the first movie is far more emotional. Like I mean, I cried at the first one. This one, I didn't cry at.
Granted, we had never seen anything like Inside Out 1 before. It broke the mold of what a kid's film could be and how it could pierce your heart as an adult at like watching it. So it was already in an uphill battle to surpass that. I don't know how it could have surpassed that first one. It was really an unfair fight.
But that being said, I would say that this is a far more profound movie. And I would venture to guess more people are going to resonate with this movie. And I think that this is going to be an even more impactful movie for many people on a personal basis.
And go on about that. Why would you say that?
So the sense of self and beliefs and the way that they visualized that was mind-blowing. I mean, that as soon as they went down that path, it was like, like I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, what is going on? This is quite incredible. And I almost like, for that alone, want to immediately go watch this movie again, just to like, hold on, think through. I mean, and for me, I'm watching this also for its theological implications, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot there. And it's just the representation of it is quite incredible. And then you get to the levels of the back of mind and at the end when we realize that like all of our experiences inform who we are, that we can't just go through and pick. I thought for me, just to spoil the movie, the brilliance of this movie was to not just demonize the negative, anxious thoughts, but to go, oh, we can't also just make this all about the positive.
Which is a continuation of the theme from the first one too.
Sure. Right. But
in a different way.
Where I would say is it makes this even more profound than the first one, of taking that to a far more complex. Like the idea of joy and sadness, those two emotions working together.
That was mind-blowing when I first saw that. I was like, that's true.
That was mind-blowing. But this, I felt like, just took it to a whole nother level psychologically.
You're right. And this was something that my wife had said that she really appreciated, was saying that anxiety isn't just something that you should immediately try to get rid of or get over or get past, but it is an emotion that has a purpose in your life. Now, if it runs everything, then you get what this movie is kind of showcasing here.
Right.
When it is calling all the shots and it has and you've literally bottled up all your other emotions. but it has a purpose in the right context and for the right reasons. So for her, that was really profound for her. Like, oh, it was good to hear because just that the phrase, just get past it, just stop being anxious. Like that doesn't, and they even have that line and someone says in there, just like, just stop being anxious. It's like, what did I think about that? I think that really resonated. The piece of it, and now it's slipping my brain, and I'm having a harder time remembering exactly. Anxiety two things: anxiety as projections, like projecting into the future. That
anxiety using your imagination to project into the future.
Yes. So that really clicked for me as something that was like, oh, I liked how they did that. I'm blanking on the other piece of it, and maybe as you're talking about some other pieces of it, I want to go back and rewatch this. I almost back in our heyday when we did our first podcast, I would go see movies multiple times, and Inside Out I probably saw 3 times in theaters. I haven't ever done that since, and I think this might be one of the first ones that I go back and see again in theaters, like a double watch, because granted, there's a ton of movies I want to go see. This will probably be in theaters for a long time though.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. I need to go see it because I know I missed a million different little funny one-liners and double meaning ideas and concepts.
I appreciated that we got some of those clever, funny things in the trailers, but then when they had their moment in the movie, they were more than the trailer. And there were more funny things that weren't in the trailer.
Like nostalgia?
Like sometimes, like nostalgia, there was this past week, we got one little trailer.
I didn't even see that one. I didn't see that one.
There was like a little teaser that had a little bit of nostalgia in there, but we got, more of her in this film. But even like the sarcasm, I felt like that was much bigger and had a better laugh than in the like in the trailer. It's just the name, the sarcasm that's clever. But then in the actual film, the way it's used and it comes across, and like they let it have its moment, it breathes, the joke breathes a little bit more. The stream of thought was hilarious. The brainstorm fantastic.
Caught me off guard. I was like, what is this brainstorm? Oh, I gotcha.
I mean, so many like things. Oh, the vault and the dark secrets.
The dark secrets, yeah.
Was fantastic.
The video game character that can't get out of the building at first. And
Did you stay to the very end and see the hidden scene at the end?
Yep. Goes back into the vault. Yeah.
Just, okay. I think this is, a lot of other people are saying it, but I thought it immediately afterwards. And I think it's time to say it. Like, I very much walked away from this going, oh, this is the Pixar that we knew and loved.
Yes. And lost.
and
but
it's
maybe
like,
they're going to bring it back.
This is where, okay, this is like,
can we get this magic back? This is what the magic is. Yeah.
Whoever it was, and for whatever reason it was, I really don't care anymore. But that went, nope. Elio back a year. Let's bump up Inside Out 2. We need this. Brilliant. Give that person a raise, whatever. Like, that decision has saved Pixar and Disney's butt.
Do you think they would have really been in a worse, like, not worse, but like hopeless situation if Elio had come out before this?
No, I think what this does now is, I think, I don't know, Elio, good or bad, I think it would have been more harshly judged because of the track record of the films that have preceded it. Like, everybody's just been kind of like geared up, like, hey, it's fun to pick at Disney. It's fun to pick at Pixar right now. And so Elio wouldn't have gotten a fair shake. This is different because this is just the original idea is fantastic, and they exceeded. I wouldn't say they exceeded the original. They exceeded the expectations for a sequel. Is that an accurate way to say?
Yeah.
So now all the stories are Pixar's back. Oh yes, we love, this is the Pixar we love. So now we've got that positive momentum going. So when Elio comes out, it's going to be a little more anticipated. I think.
Well, maybe it might be better than we thought, because Inside Out was better than we thought.
Right. Where I think if it would have been the other way around, and Elio is a fantastic movie, one of the best, I don't know if it would have gotten as fair of a shake, because everybody's just on this, hey, let's dog on Disney bandwagon, which is half earned. I don't want to discredit that, but like, I'm also rooting. I want good stories. I want Pixar. I want what we've loved so much.
I would agree. You've swayed me.
What I swayed you for the order for switching
yeah, moving it around. I think that's a smart move. I know it bumps some other things back, and
sure,
but maybe it also gives them more runway to rethink maybe some other project that they've got in the works. Obviously, Moana is coming out this winter time around Thanksgiving. Then we'll get Elio next year.
So that I'm glad you brought that up. That's probably my biggest concern here, is that Disney's going to walk away from this going, see, we need to make more sequels. That's what this is telling us.
Well, Eddie, it's going to shock you to know that is already their plan. It is not a new plan.
I know.
It's not a new one. We've just confirmed it.
I'm afraid they're going to double down on it. on this.
Eddie, when you make almost Barbie opening weekend money, $155 million, when it was, they thought it would make like 90 or 100, and it just blew all of that out of the water. I think the ship is gone. I think we're going to get a lot of sequels from now on. Like, it's going to be harder and harder to get anything else. But then again, like, have they really hit it out of the park with a lot of these other ones? I mean, so many forgettable movies.
And did you see the trailer for Moana 2 at the top of this?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Raucous applause.
Oh, it did.
Everybody was like, oh, Moana, I love this.
And I just felt like that fell flat. Like, one, you didn't use anybody's audio. Like, there's no speaking.
Well, that's to be expected from a like the first
at the
trailer.
Very end, I guess at the very end you get a little bit of The Rock.
Well, and then I did love. I'm sorry, Eddie. I gotta disagree with you, because I didn't
like this trailer.
I did love the bacon and eggs. Why didn't we have this in the last movie? Like, I loved that. Like, calling out that everybody was like, why didn't you have Pua on this adventure? We would have. You could have sold way more Puas. We have one that our kids really like.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's not here yet. Hopefully they have the time, but I'm cautious.
The moment that I'm now remembering, kind of backtracking a little bit, but the part of anxiety that I thought was really interesting was where they made her out to be someone that makes plans. And I'd never kind of put that connection with anxiety, that it is also connected heavily, like in reality, but at least in the movie, to a planner and a strategist, and anticipating the next moves and how to get to the end. Even when they're like, anxiety would have had a plan. Like, I was like, oh, you could kind of see your anxiety as a part of that system, at least in your brain, of like making moves and anticipating and being ready for danger when it comes around. But just that whole idea of planning, I thought was a positive spin on anxiety that I've never heard before or seen done. But then that gets into all the projections, the room of people drawing projections, and their way to combat it is to throw new ones in there. There's just so much to love. But I remember now the piece of it that I really liked. But
So I'll ask you Lewis's favorite question. What is your favorite new emotion?
Favorite new emotion.
Let's start with what was your favorite in the last one?
My wife's for sure was sadness.
Yeah.
Like we have many sadness figurines and things on our shelf over on the right now. There's a cup and a little tiny sadness that would be by far hers. I really liked sadness in the last one, and then when it comes around as not the villain but the
hero.
part of the hero of it. Like sometimes you need sadness. Like yeah, that's correct. So I mean, it's hard to pick one because all of the emotions are so good. So in this new one, I mean, mostly we get anxiety and greed or envy over and over again. I think lately I would say that the envy one hit home for me on a lot of stuff. I mean, everybody has anxiety. I don't know that I've had as much of a suffering from anxiety as much as the overwhelm with like envy, greed, those kinds of things. And so for me, I was intrigued by that, but I wouldn't say that was my favorite because it's like picking at a scab, a wound or whatever. I was appreciative that they made, I don't know that I had a favorite. I mean, I still love the original characters and we get a lot of all of them throughout this film. We get more of like greed, of anger and some of the disgust, and I think we get more
fear.
of them in the fear. They get more screen time in the last one because they're on the journey, and maybe they heard that and they're like, "Hey, let's keep them all together as long as we can."
I really loved embarrassment. I thought from the trailer, like we may not get a ton from him, but he ends up playing a big part of the film. Ennui is hilarious. Like the moment Ennui,
she's the right amount of time,
has an app on the phone to control the console, so it doesn't have to get up. I'm like, yes, thank you. And then, of course, the brief little appearance from Nostalgia I thought was hilarious and fantastic. I think overall, one of the things that I loved is that we see, especially anxiety and envy, but also from ennui and from embarrassment, which I think those four on the surface, we think of them as negative emotions or and we see why those we need those, why those are beneficial to us. And I think this movie does a really good job of highlighting that.
It does. If you had to pick more emotions, is there any emotion that you wish they would have added in here as well, or maybe it'd be hard for them to get more emotions in here, but for a third one.
Well, I think we're gonna get an Inside Out 3. Just everybody be ready for that.
Prepare yourselves.
And they're not gonna wait 9 years to do it. And I think we're gonna get like an 18-year-old Riley first love type of story. I just feel like that's just unavoidable, right?
I just don't know that they could do that and still keep it a kid's movie, to be honest. Like, I feel like you'd have to start adding in some new emotions that might take this to a whole nother level that maybe I don't think is in Pixar's wheelhouse.
Yeah, so just for reference sake, according to psychologists, there are 27 main emotions. Which one of them is romance. Another one is sexual desire. But then there's also things like triumph and sympathy. There's interest, there's horror, there's excitement, there's entrancement, there's pain, there's craving, there's confusion, calmness, awkwardness, which I think we've got in this one. Embarrassment. Aesthetic appreciation is apparently an emotion, and so is adoration and amusement.
I feel like they should just have a hunger, like hungry. Feels like that should be in there somewhere.
That's not an emotion, though. That is a state of being.
You're not you when you're hungry, Eddie.
Well, that means that impacts your emotions, but yes.
Tired, just straight tired.
As an Enneagram 4, I want to see aesthetic appreciation. That seems like an emotion that I could identify with. You would
be a 4 and say that, Eddie. So here's my only kind of gripe with this movie. I don't know. This seems more like a preteen movie, like aimed at that. Like there's appreciation above that, but my kids, they were glad to go see it, but I don't know that they left like excited about the movie. They laughed at parts and they thought things were funny, but there was a lot of this that was straight over their heads if it wasn't physical comedy and things banging and falling off and being bottled up and stuff. I don't think that they had nearly the same emotion with this film, pun intended, as me and my wife did. And even compared to the first one, I think the first one still had quite a bit. This is not my kids' favorite movie. We don't watch it very often, and they don't really care to watch it that often. So they were much more excited to go see Gru, because Despicable Me 4. They're much more excited that even while we're there, they were like excited about the poster for that movie. Like, when are we going to go see that one? This, they were glad because they got to go to the movie and have popcorn and enjoy all of it. But they are, and I think this is what it comes down to. And I'm very interested. What would Lewis say was the bad guy in this movie? Did he ask Dada who's the bad guy?
No, he did not ask.
There's not really, like, the bad guy turns out to be just misplaced, misused good emotions.
Which I guess, I mean, this is the same as the first one. The bad guy is the circumstance.
And that's why I think for my kids that it wasn't an obvious, there wasn't as big of a draw to it. Like they left right. When we went and saw the Duck movie that came out in January,
Migration,
they loved, and they were like wanting to listen to the music on the way home and for days and days. And Mama, you got to see Migration when it comes out. We might have even rented it potentially. And this one, they didn't have that same response. And I think it's because it's a lot more headier of topics and sequences. And it's a teenage girl. It's a 13-year-old girl, with her stuff. I still enjoy this a lot more than the other 13-year-old girl related movie, Turning Red, that came out a couple years ago. But it works in that genre, but it also means I think it kind of isn't quite as great for the young kids that I have, which are like 7 and 5. I think a little bit older, and it's better. I know it is because I got some friends that took their kids who are like 10 years old to see this, and their kid was like, "Oh, I have anxiety. I get that sometimes. I feel that way sometimes." And I think my kids are just, they don't know. They didn't quite.
They're not there.
They're not there yet.
I totally agree. That's exactly where mine were. I think what carried us was, this is only Lewis's 3rd time to go to the movie theater ever, or 4th time, technically.
Yeah.
Eileen,
so he's just excited to be there.
Eileen and Ace said this was only their 2nd time ever. You know, that carried us.
Yeah.
But like I said, about 30 minutes before the movie was over, we lost Ace and Eileen. You know,
they were gone.
4 and a 2-year-old were just gone. Snacks were done. The popcorn was out. The gummies were done. The special spicy drink was done. It was like, how can we? Just
and I think
this.
And I can hold two things in my hand. I really enjoyed this. Really had so many thoughts and want to rewatch it again, and also hold that it is a complicated story.
Yeah,
and especially for kids, it's going to be overly complicated for them.
But I would make the case that that's why this movie is doing so well, because it has the crossover appeal.
Oh, it's got much bigger crossover appeal for adults, especially.
Right. Like a lot of people in the theater with us were not there with kids, that this was not a family film.
All of the people coming in ours were parents, but.
Well, you also, 10:30 in the morning,
Monday,
I would assume.
We saw it on the weekend, so.
I think that's the numbers that we're seeing, is that it's a broad audience appeal, is that you're getting your families, but you're also getting your adults that go, I know that this is going to be a story more at my level, because they remember the first one.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. One great little thing that came out of the press junket for this, they had Pete Docter, the chief creative officer of Pixar, who is also the writer and director on the first one. I think he gets like an executive producer credit on this one. They had him out on all the junkets because I guess there was like all hands on deck. Let's make sure this movie does well.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him, will we ever get live action remakes of Pixar films? Have you seen his response, JB?
Yes.
It is fantastic. It is almost like like disgust is the emotion controlling his brain at the moment.
When his parent company is the one championing live action remakes.
He just can't. It's like, no
desire. Right. And he championed and he really pushes for new stories. He wants to do new things, but his parent company is not going to let him do a lot of them. Maybe some of them, but definitely not a lot of them.
Right. So I thought that was very interesting. Well, JB, I think we should probably call it there after a nice lengthy review. I promised you a story at the end.
Yeah, I'm all ears. I'm ready for this, Eddie.
With this. This is what it means to take a 4-year-old to the theater. She decides she's losing it, so she's going up and down from the chair, and you know how easy that is in a theater chair that swivels back and forth. She's doing all of this while I'm trying to hold the soda and the popcorn, keeping it from spilling and going everywhere. She gets stuck. Her foot gets stuck in the chair.
Yeah. Oh.
She becomes flailing around, and in the process of flailing around, pokes me, jabs me straight in the eyeball, to where like I'm like temporarily blinded, can't see anything. She's going, Daddy, I'm stuck. Daddy, I'm stuck. I'm going, I can't see. She's flailing, almost knocking over the popcorn. So you get the scene, right? Like this is what's like, but we're also in a theater. So like, we're trying to keep it quiet and And I'm going, Sarah, help me. And she's so enthralled into this movie. She is just like captivated. And I'm going, you're one seat away. Like Eileen's in between us. How do you not see what's going on right now? But she is so glued to this. And I'm going,
so into this.
Sarah, help me. And I'm not wanting to speak too loud because we're in a movie theater, of course. As I'm blinded, holding soda, popcorn, Eileen's still rocking back and forth in this theater seat going, my foot's stuck. And I'm going, Sarah. This is the moment Lewis decides, I'm going to get my backpack out and pull out all 20 some pictures that I have drawn, colored over the weekend of Inside Out and begin to do all this. And my wife is still glued to the screen and is so enthralled in this story. And I'm going, finally, I'm just like, Sarah, help me. She's like, turns around, she looks at me, she's like, oh, okay. Starts like pulling it all.
That's incredible.
It'll be a while till we take all three to the movie theater. Let me just say that. So with that, everybody, you've got your weekly dose of Disney nostalgia.
Be sure to subscribe to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast wherever you listen to your other favorite podcasts, and give us a look on YouTube as well.
While you're there, please like or leave a 5-star review and go ahead and share it with your best friend.
You can also check us out at honeywemade.com, where you can see all of our nostalgic reviews of other Disney movies.
Tune in next week as we review The Sign of Zorro.
Thank you for listening, and remember, death comes unexpectedly.
Amen.
Amen.